Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. How are you? I hope you'll be fine. I'm here with a new video. This is related to chapter number 1, Light in the Night, of your textbook, Oxford New Syllabus for grade 7. So we are going to start the explanation, and I'm going to discuss the difficult word meanings along. So hold a pencil in your hands and watch the video till the end, so you won't miss any of the important points. Plus please subscribe to the channel if you are new, and like the video, hit the bell icon so you won't miss any of my upcoming videos. Let's start the lesson. London is a major capital city. At night it glows brightly like most modern cities. Before the 1700s, London was much smaller than it is now. So they are telling some history about London, that earlier how it looked like. On cloudless nights, moonless nights, people would take advantage of the moonlight and go out to socialize. But nighttime in the city would be dangerous. You could trip, fall and injure yourself. If you fell in the river, you could drown. You could be attacked or robbed by criminals who roamed the streets. You could easily get lost. If people wanted to go out at night, they would have to carry a burning torch or lamp, or if they were rich enough, pay someone else to carry it. So dear students, as you can see in the title, they are telling something about the night, because at daytime there is enough light. But what about night if there is not enough light? To lighten up the city or streets, we should have proper lights, enough lights, right? So earlier when London was not as modern as today, when it was a small city, but it was a capital city, and they're talking about earlier in 1700s or before that. So on cloudless nights, cloudless night means when there were no clouds in the night, and there was moonlit, and the light was enough for the people, for the moon, from the moon, and they can socialize, they can interact with each other, they can have get-togethers and gossips at night. But night time in the city would be dangerous. Why it was dangerous? Because people could fall, people could trip, people could injure themselves because of the darkness all over, right? So there was the problem of injury, and there was a problem of being attacked or robbed as well by the criminals, because it's easy for the criminals to attack other people in the dark, because no one could recognize them and no one could catch them because of absence of light. So you see, students, there was the problem of light in the night, because there were no street lights as we used to have today. So I hope, students, this paragraph is very much clear to you. Let's discuss some of the word meanings. Moonlit means lighted by the moon, when there is a full moon or light from the moon. Socialize means to interact, to mingle, to mix with people, to have get-togethers. Trip means to slip, to get tripped on someone. Drown means to go under, to sink, to drown in water. Roamed, to go about. Roaming means to go about here and there without any purpose. Link boys means attendant. Come to next paragraph. There were many link boys who would, for a small fee, hold a burning torch or lamp ahead of people so that they could see the way through the dark streets. Some of these link boys were dishonest and would rob the people who had employed them and then run off and leave them in the dark. So earlier people used to hire some of the link boys, some of the boys who could hold torch for them or some light for them, so that they could have some light ahead of them and they could easily cross the roads or reach their destination at night. So but sometimes what happens, as we used to have today, that some of the link boys were dishonest and they used to rob the people who they were showing the way and then run off and leave them in the dark. So it was of no use, or some little use, but it was not enough for the people to have light in the night. So what happened next? Let's see. By the early 1700s, that is 1700 started, busy cities like London and Paris had street lamps in some areas. And now some street lamps were introduced in these areas. In Paris, which had street lamps before London, the first street lamps were actually lights placed in the windows of houses. So what were the first street lamps in the city? It was basically the people placing some lights in their windows, right? At the windows, people started to put some lights. They were not basically street lights, they were the lights lighted by the people. Police enforced a law that said every house had to have a lamp burning in the window all night long. So this was not done by something from the government, but it was done by the people themselves, and this law was enforced by the police. So if the lamp went out, people would have to get up to relight it or face being fined. Some people started to offer their services as lamp lighters. So this was hectic thing in the sense that sometime what happens that in the middle of the night, sometimes the lamps went out, so the people have to wake up, they have to burn the lamp again, or otherwise they have to face fines, they have to pay penalties. So some people started to offer their services as lamp lighters. Lamp lighters means the workers who used to light the lamps at night in return for payment. Again, it was not for free, but it was for some fees. Lamp lighters would put a lamp outside the house and make sure it was lit. So some lamp lighters started to offer a service to the common people by putting up a lamp outside of their window at night and lighting it up. So it was done in the return of some payment. So the street lamps reassured people and made them feel safer. So this step taken by the government started to comfort people in the sense that there was light now in the night, and they could feel safer and they could feel comfortable. So the authorities realized the benefits. They brought and took over the installation and maintenance of them. So the authorities, the people in power, now thought that this step is very much beneficial for the common people. All over Europe, the use of lampposts grew. So the lampposts, the street lights start to grow more and more. In the 1700s, London grew rapidly, very quickly, and became the world's center of trade, manufacturing, and fashion. So it started to grow because it was the capital city, and it started to grow both in population and became the center of trade. People started to trade in London. Business became important and lights were needed to keep the city working and entertaining in the night, because when we have these type of cities which are big enough, so the trade used to be carried in the night also, not only at the daytime that we used to have in small towns or small cities, but the city keeps working 24 hours. By the late 1700s, people had so many street lamps that visitors to the city were amazed by them. So in the early 1700s, lampposts were introduced, and in 1700s, London started to grow. And by the late 1700s, that is in the end of 1700s, what happened? London had so many street lamps that visitors to the city were amazed by them. The lamps were fueled by wax or oil that gave off an unpleasant smell and often dripped. So they had so many lamps, but what was the problem with them? They were fueled by wax or oil, and these oil have a very unpleasant, very bad smell, and sometimes they often dripped, sometimes they often dropped. Many people were employed as lamp lighters because each lamp had to be lit by hand every evening. This was again a hectic thing, that these lamps were lit by the people. They had to be lit by hand. So many people were required as employees to light these lamp lighters. So one German tourist visited London in 1700s wrote in his diary, "As it was quite dark when I came back the first evening, I was astonished at the admirable manner in which the streets are lighted up. So he wrote this in his diary that when it started to dusk and the night started, there was darkness all over, but very quickly what happened, that the streets started to light it up. The bright lamps made the city seem exciting and lively. The lamps are so near each other that even on the most ordinary and common nights, the city has the appearance of a festive illumination. Let's discuss some of the word meanings over here for our students. Enforce means to impose or apply something enforced or imposed by the government or authorities. Lamplighters means workers who used to light the lamps. Reassured means comforted. Authorities means officials or other people in power. Realized, understand, benefit, welfare, the advantage. Installation, fitting or fixture, maintenance, care. Lamppost, street lights, rapidly means quickly. Manufacturing, mass production, right? Producing something in a mass. Entertaining, enjoyable. Amazed means surprised. Fueled means inflamed, to fire, to light up. Gave off, removed. Unpleasant, bad. Dripped means dropped. Tourist, traveler, visitor. Astonished, again it means surprised. Admirable, excellent, something fascinating. Ordinary, normal, usual. Appearance, image, look. Festive, celebration, something of festival nature. Illumination means lighting. So in the late 1700s, lamplighters quickly became an important and valued part of society. This was because they often became a key figure in their communities. They were very much important in their communities. They would walk the same route twice a day, and as they checked, cleaned, fixed, lit or put out the lights, they would notice what was going on around them. So why were they key figures in their communities? Because they would walk twice daily. And what were their job? They used to check, clean, fix, lit or put out the lights. And during this procedure, they used to meet people and look for what was going around them, that what people were doing, what they were engaged in, what were their problems. So they used to mingle with them, they used to interact with them, and they were very much important in them. Many lamplighters helped to make their routes safer. So this was again a very much important thing. Their job required strength, energy, agility and reliability. So they will have these qualities in them. They had to keep the lights clean, make sure the wicks were trimmed to the right length, light tens of lamps in the evening and put them all out again in the morning. Many lamplighters were pleased to be guardians in their communities, and often the job would be passed on from parent to child. So you see, in the late 1700s, these lamplighters were a key figure, were very important person in their communities because of the nature of their job. Let's discuss some meanings. Key figure means important. Routes are the way, path, the road, the passage. Agility means quickness or sharpness, something doing with a quick move. Reliability, honesty, sincerity, loyalty. So these means reliability. Wicks, cord or candle end. Students, you would have seen these candles, they have a cord. So this cord is called wicks. Trimmed means to shorten, to cut, to crop. You would have used this word cropped during cropping your photographs. Students, in photography, you have to crop your photographs to make it more beautiful. Guardian means protector. We use this word guardian for the children who do not have their parents and they are protected and they are brought up by some other people. So they are the guardians, they are the protector, right? The lampposts of London were designed with a bar sticking out on either side at the top so that the lamplighter could safely rest this ladder on them. As you can see, students, over here, this is a pole and they have these corners, and which means that this bar is designed in such a way that this ladder could be easily rested on it, right? So they were designed in such a way. Lamplighters moved quickly, carrying their ladder and going up and down it hundreds of times a day. So this was their job. They used to come up and down, go up and down from this ladder, and they used to light up hundreds of lampposts daily. So the lampposts were decorated with the royal crest and were looked after carefully by the lamplighters. So they were become a very much important thing in their communities, and they started to decorate these lampposts. When gas lamps started to be used from 1805 onwards, so in the 1800s, 1700s has gone and now 1800 has started. So when this was started, gas lamps were started to be used instead of oil lamps, right? So they changed the work of the lamplighters. The gas lamps were much quicker to light and didn't require lots of work like the oil lamps, such as changing the smelly oil and replacing and trimming wicks. Some of the lamplighters felt their job wasn't the same anymore. Charles Dickens captured this feeling in the story The Lamplighters, when one character talks about the change from oil to gas lamps. This was a change that came into being in the 1800s, that these oil lamps were replaced by the gas lamps, and now the nature of job was changed, and people do not require to change them so often. Moreover, he said, I foresee in this the breaking up of our profession. There's no more going the rounds to trim the late daylight, no more dribbling down of the oil on the hats and bonnets of ladies and gentlemen. When one feels in his spirits, any low fellow can light a gas lamp. These were the perception of the lamplighters in the 1800s, when the gas lamps were there and no more oil lamps. Gas lamps were better than oil lamps in many ways, although a big issue with them was that every now and again one would blow up. Over time, gas lamps replaced oil lamps. Later, with the invention of electricity, gas lamps were replaced by the electric lamps, which now dominate modern streets. So you see, students, first they had oil lamps, then they were replaced by gas lamps, and later to today we have electric lamps, right? They dominate modern streets because they are the easiest and quickest way to be placed in the night. Today there are still 1500 gas lamps in London. 5 people are employed to operate them. Still there are 1500 gas lamps in London. So only 5 people have to operate them. They light them every evening and put them out every morning. So they light them every evening and put them out every morning. These lights are carefully looked after because they are part of the city's history. This is important. You have to focus on this because they are part of history, and in the name of history they are still in place. Kensington Palace Gardens is the name of a long avenue in London, long place in London. It is lined with grand old buildings and is lit entirely by gas lamps. This is the place which is still lighted up by the gas lamps. There you can imagine what it would have been like in London during the time of Charles Dickens. After looking at that, after visiting that place, you can imagine easily that how these streets used to look like in the times of Charles Dickens, when there was Charles Dickens. Let's discuss some more word meanings. Royal crest is a design used as the symbol of a town, right? Captured means to catch, to express, to grab something, like we used to capture our photographs. Foresee, to predict, to expect, to see something in the earlier, right? Dribbling, to drop, to leak, the leakage. Bonnet is the cap. Basically, women used to wear these caps. So these are the bonnets of the women. Invention, creation, innovation, कोई चीज़ इजाद करना. Dominate means to control, to command. Operate means to run, to handle something. Avenue is the road, boulevard. Entirely means completely. So here, students, we have completed the explanation part of this chapter, Light in the Night. I hope it's very much clear to you. Still, if you have any sort of questions or queries, you can ask me in the comment section. Please like the video, share it with your friends. Thanks for watching the video. Take care. Allah Hafiz.